and welcome to Geopolitical Trends. My name is David Baraleo. So good to be with you as always. Hope you have you had a good weekend, and you are looking forward to this week with all the information that will be coming up. So, and by the way, I will be releasing more information this week. Just be on the lookout for some videos. Yes, I'm doing more videos about India because of what I'm finding out, but also other information that I am going to be sharing with you. As a matter of fact, I want to share one information with you right now. I am going to have a guest here on Wednesday for live. His name is Einar Tangen. I'm sure you guys heard of Einar. He's somebody I respect a lot, somebody I trust his judgment. And we're going to be talking about some hot button global issues, including this one about India, especially from an economic perspective. So be on the lookout. I will post it for you guys, for you to remind you of it, but it will be on Wednesday at 1900 hours. So be on the lookout for that. And I will be also releasing some videos pertaining to this topic. So, well, before I'll delve deeper, like always, I like to extend my thanks to the supporters and channel and subscribers. And also, I want to give a shout out to our channel new supporter. It's Tom Hone. I hope I pronounced it correctly. My apologies if I didn't. So thank you so much, Tom, for your support. So, and as I said, to remind you guys, again, Einar Tangen will be here on Wednesday. So be on the lookout for that one. So, all right, I'm assuming the sound is working fine. Give me a thumbs up, please, if you hear me clearly. So I got to make sure because we got a lot to cover in this, and I want to make sure it's working. Greeting to you too, Boone. Good to see you as always, and all of you guys. Yeah, I couldn't wait on this topic till I'm gonna do a recorded video for you about this from a different angle. But what I'm gonna be addressing here, it has to do with a very much larger picture. And the reason being is because, and this is my personal opinion of where I see the policies of India, what it's gonna sort of lead to moving forward. And this is what we're gonna be discussing today. So the topic is going to be focusing on, for example, why did India refuse to support BRICS new currency? Okay, because the next question that's going to have to, which you're all going to have to think in those terms, and this has nothing to do with India sort of pointing fingers at India. No, they are those who are spewing this nonsense, because it is nonsense. It has nothing to do with putting down India, whatever. It's what's on the geopolitical landscape, what's taking place. Because as an analyst, I'm going to ask myself, is India undermining BRICS? It's because we all know that the Western hegemony does not want BRICS to move up. So this is why it prompts me to, and I'm going to provide the argument for you, and you reach your own conclusion. The last question I will ask within this is it time? And again, those questions you guys can contemplate on. You can answer if you like, is it time for BRICS to replace India? Straightforward. Let's not get emotional here. Let's not put the emotions when it comes down to, this is like I always look at it as a former military. You have a military unit, okay? Let's say you are going on an operation somewhere. But you got an element within the team that is not meeting up to the standard, either in training, or the physical capabilities, or some other issues. What are you going to do? Are you going to replace the guy or the gal for that matter, or just sort of impacts the entire team? So the logical sense would say you replace the guy, end of story, or the gal for that matter. Simple as it is that. Same thing. If India is going to be undermining BRICS, then a decision has to be made. And I'm looking into really what the mechanism is for a country to be removed from BRICS. So it might not be as easy, because here's the thing. One thing BRICS has, which is better than other entities, is that the decision is collective. No one country has the full dominance. You look at it like in the EU, okay, or in NATO for that matter. So, but those are legitimate questions we ought to ask, because there is another issue that came up, which I will make a video on it, a recorded one. And if you like me to do a live stream on it, I will be happy to extend on that. And this one has to do with India refusing to sign the Development Strategy 2030 for the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So if you are not, you as a team player, in this case India, not willing to play along with everybody else, that doesn't mean your interests should be ignored. That is not what I'm saying. And I'm sure India is justifying it this way. But this is for the collective team. Well, if you are not if you are not willing to play ball, then get out. Maybe this is not for you. And again, let's not get emotional about this. And while I'm at this, I'm going to answer one question that somebody put in a comment. It's a fair question. It's logical. I don't take it personally, of course, but then the question is why all of a sudden I am focusing on India? Well, wait a minute. I'm focusing on India because of where I see the trajectory is headed. It's because if you have, hypothetically, to this person, just think with me here. If you hypothetically have BRICS moving up, because I'm going to give you some stats to put this in perspective. If BRICS moves up the ladder as far as the global stage, financially and economically, first of all, financially, that means that will reduce the control of the United States abuse of the dollar for sanctions and so forth. This is why I said a few months ago, way back, I said, be on the lookout during the summit of BRICS, which will be on August 23rd, 24th of this year in South Africa. It will be a major announcement. And that announcement has to do with the currency. That was the plan. Now India is coming forward ahead of it. You know why? It's because they want to minimize the influence of it. And this is where I'm starting to think twice about one specific thing. And you know what it is? All India embarks on these decisions. Okay, like for example, the refusal to sign the SCO Strategic Development 2030, the establishment of a naval logistics with the United States in India. Okay, and of course now with the shutting down of the BRICS talks about the new currency. All this happened after Prime Minister Modi returned from the United States. What do you make out of it? It's almost, I feel like, okay, was he given the marching orders? And again, it has nothing to do with putting down India, whatever. I don't do that kind of nonsense. This is what's realistic. Even Indian people inside in India are shocked as to how their government is now embarking on some policies that have nothing to do with the welfare of middle class in India. So I am thinking about it from the welfare of humanity as a whole. It's because if BRICS moves up, that's going to reduce the power and influence of the EU, for example, that is exploiting other countries. That's my point of why I have to focus on this. And who's to say? Maybe someone in the Indian government will watch this video and say to himself, well, maybe this guy is right about what he's saying. Let's reconsider our policies. That's all. That is the for the idea of those who say, well, you don't like India. It's a weak argument. Let's not get into that. That's nonsense. Let me say thank you to Osiris. Great. Good to see you as always, Osiris. And thank you so much for your continued support. It means a lot. I appreciate it. So the idea of, and again, I'm just going to provide you the facts and you reach your conclusion for all this. Because all this happened right after Prime Minister Modi returned from the US. Is it a coincidence? I'll let you. You're smart enough to read between the lines. So here is this issue about the why India is now shutting down the talk of BRICS currency. Well, they can say whatever they want. India is entitled to say whatever it wants. But if BRICS collectively is going to move forward that direction as far as de-dollarization, which they are, I don't see the reason why India is not supporting that. Why India's argument is because it wanted to sort of promote the rupees. Well, hold on a second. Who's going to be trading in rupees? Let's just face it. Yes, India just had a deal right now with the United Arab Emirates to buy, I think, liquefied natural gas and pay for it in rupees. But yes, India had a deal with Russia as far as energy sales in both rupees and rubles. But I am now thinking, should Russia just stop the delivery of extra energy, not the entire energy? Because here's the deal. You guys need to understand, contracts were signed. And it behooves Russia and India, for that matter, to honor their commitments. Otherwise, what will make them different than us when we break our arrangements or agreements? But the question is, Russia was selling extra oil to India for cheap, but India was taking that oil and selling it to Europe and making money on it. So could Russia stop that and say to India, well, sorry, we're going to just send you what we agreed upon? Or could Russia rather stop the delivery altogether and say to India, yeah, we'll be happy to send you energy, oil in this case, but you need to pay us in rubles, not rupees. And I think this is where the issue of India didn't like it, because the new currency in the BRICS, of course, the Chinese economy is far bigger than India's. It's common sense. So obviously the currency, the renminbi in this case, will be more acceptable than rupees. Simple as that. But what India is not seeing is, this is not about China. This is about the collective BRICS. We're all going to benefit, including India. So for the external foreign minister, Johnson, are to be saying, well, India is saying a new BRIC currency. Hold on a second, man. Who are you to dictate the agenda by yourself? I used to think of the guy being really reasonable, but recently some statements that just off the wall. And this is where I see the idea of why all of a sudden India is embarking on this. Because the collective agenda has been agreed upon. Now, India, of course, they can object to it. And this is one mechanism in the BRICS that no one country controls the agenda. Well, nobody's controlling it because the agreement among all of them except India. So if you are the oddball or you don't like, then get out. Simple as that. That's the way I see it. You don't like how things are moving? Maybe it's not for you. That's like when you join a team and you go and you start to practice with a team, or whatever, some sort of a sport, but you don't like the chemistry. You don't get along. What, do you want the whole team to disband? No, you get out. Same thing for India. And again, it's because the idea of that India shutting down is because they want to promote rupees. But rupees will not be accepted. Renminbi, at least, some countries do. And here is what is the shocker of all this. And I just find that out. He came across my desk last night. I checked it, believe it or not. I intend to address it in the recorded video, but I'm going to give you just a brief idea. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be talking about this with my guest, Einar Tangen, on Wednesday when he comes on the air here for Econ. We're going to be addressing this because that's part of his background. The economy is, and again, as I said, Einar Tangen is someone I trust. And I usually don't say this lightly. I've been around long enough to know. So here's the thing. It was a foreign policy article right here in the United States, in Washington. You know what it says? The title reads, "Don't believe what is said about Modi's economic success story." Yeah, that's what's been published yesterday in a Foreign Policy. And I read that magazine, is right. I'm going to show it to you guys. Foreign Affairs. This is what I read most of the time to keep up with what's going on. So, and the person who wrote this, his name is Tim Sahi. He's a senior policy director at the Green New Deal Network, which includes 15 civil society organizations in America. This is not one person's opinion. This is collective. And if you allow me to share this with you, I'm going to read it for you guys. The big title he has is Failure to Deliver on Promises. Modi's crony capitalism has failed to build a large enough middle-class consumer base to attract investors. Modi failed to deliver on his campaign promises to increase India's industrialization by 25% of GDP and increase capital investments in airports and railways to 11% of its 2023 budget to create a large domestic market. So despite Modi's promise to add 100 million jobs in manufacturing sector, India lost 24 millions of those jobs between 2017 and 2021. So that was up from 11 million jobs before, of course, the pandemic at that time. So this is what I'm saying. Okay, why all of a sudden India is embarking on counterproductive policies that, first of all, is going to impact it directly and impact the Indian citizens, not the hierarchy. As you all know, and again, we're not pointing fingers, but I don't shy away from saying it, for the caste system in India. Maybe it's time to really rethink that. We live in 21st century. That's like what I saw a week ago of the King Charles doing the knighthood. Come on, man. It's not a 19th century. We're 21st. So India maybe needs to be thinking in those terms. And that's the reality of why all of a sudden India objecting to allow the currency of BRICS to move forward. I'm going to tell you why also it's important to understand this within the context of even international relations. Because within the international relations theory per se, you have to conceptualize this concept of BRICS, what it's all about. Because BRICS in itself, which will be emulating, and it is emulating, the incumbent world powers. That is why it's important. If BRIC goes up, you're going to create a level playing field in which no one country, in this case, us, the US, dominates the world. That era is gone. But if you have policies like this that will undermine, this is why I use the term, and I'm very careful with my words. I asked the question, is India undermining BRICS? Intentionally. Because all of a sudden, those policies, and I watch, that's what I do for a living, part of why geopolitics is my wheelhouse. I watch for the trends, I watch for the policies, I watch for how countries behave, which gives me an idea of what lies ahead. All of this happened right after Prime Minister Modi returned from the United States. So, and the whole idea of the BRICS, okay, is to increase the bargaining power and influence on the global economic stage. That's the whole idea. So to me, the way I look at it, which there is a lot of conversation right now, many are suggesting it's time to replace India. It was another comment that I read, and I bet you the person was from India because I can tell just the writing and I can tell the language itself. That he said, well, BRICS and SCO are stuck with India. Yes, they might be, but there is also another alternative. All the members, like in this case, we're talking about BRICS here. I'm not going to be talking on both SCO and BRICS. We'll focus on BRICS, and I will do a video and a live on SCO separately. Because here's the thing: China, Russia, South Africa, and Brazil could form another club altogether. Yeah, you keep BRICS where it is, but it will be limited to where it is. Okay? Then you go and create another entity without India and invite the countries that will contribute. This is the key. I think the changes in the global stage sort of happens faster than anticipated. This is why now we have the concern. We in the US have a concern about the dollar. Once this currency will launch, and by the way, it will be launched whether India likes it or not. That's just the way it is. They could create another club without India. Then in this case, India will be really, really marginalized. It will be by itself in this case, holding the end of the stick. And this is why that article that came up in a foreign policy really scaring India. Well, not India, but the prime minister. Because let's make sure we are not categorizing all Indians into this. No. They're wonderful people. I worked with some in Washington, D.C. I know people from India. Wonderful people. We're talking about a government here, like every other country. It's just why what the Prime Minister Modi ended up doing versus what he promised to deliver are two things. And now we're seeing the reflection of that. And the whole reason for BRICS was the idea of the to motivate for a common vision. That one that can challenge G7, for example, or the United States for that matter. That was the whole idea. So if we are to say that BRICS have a common voice or greater voice within existing multilateral institutions, I don't see that right now, given the decisions or the policies India is embarking. One player can bring down the entire team, the way I see it. And this idea of these multilateral institutions that include major international and financial institutions as well. This is why the currency for BRICS will be, most of the countries in the world will be moving into that direction because of what we just witnessed with the sanctions the US imposed, not just on Russia, but any country. And it's my country. Do you think I want to see that the dollar goes down? No, because I know what it's going to do to Americans, average Joe, average Jane. The people who are really living on a very, very limited budget, to the point that some people might not even have enough to buy dinner. Do I want that to happen? No. But on the other hand, my governments end up abusing that power or that privilege. It was a privilege. Why would you abuse it? That's the way I see it. So now we forced the world to move, except the Europeans. Of course, European Union, not all of them. They're weak. You can't even talk about that. You can't talk about Canada. It's so weak. You can't talk about Australia. It's so weak. And now you have to add Scandinavian countries or Nordic states. Yeah, Sweden, Finland mainly. Norway to a degree. Iceland, Denmark, So this is where I see. Now, there is another argument that's saying, especially this one is tied to the SCO, but I don't want to confuse you guys by talking on two separate things. It's just one of the issues that came up with India is sometimes it does not like the language of a bill or a legislation or a policy or whatever. What India is not willing to accept is that it's no match for China's economy. That is the reality. I mean, you all heard about how many entities are leaving, foreign investors that is leaving India. Unlike the video I did before. And it wasn't about criticizing India. It was about providing the facts. India is no match for China. No other country in BRICS besides China is match for China's economy. Even now, you notice in the West, when we do analysis, for example, or release a white paper, whatever, pertaining to global economy and so forth, we always, here in the West, we always say, oh, China, the second largest economy. Well, that's just to minimize the impact. We all know that it's almost on an equal footing with the US. As a matter of fact, China will overtake economically the US soon. So for India, instead of working together to improve the country, to move the massive population from poverty, the Prime Minister, Modi in this case, embarking on a policies that really is going to backfire. That is the reason what prompted me to really, and I'm going to focus on India. It's because it needs to be said for the good Indian people that they need to know, because even in India, don't assume that the term you hear about the largest democracy, it's nonsense. I'm here to tell you, we have it right here in the US. Our government is saying, oh, the great democracy. What democracy are we talking about? It's nonsense. It is nonsense. So here's one of the things you need to think about this within the big picture, which I hope India can sort of take a step back and rethink what it's saying. So what will be the purpose of BRICS countries? Well, there are a lot. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm going to mention one that pertains to this conversation here. And this one has to do with one of its objective, or the purpose for BRICS is the commitment towards international, or is the commitment towards reforming international financial institution. It also BRICS aims to find a greater voice for the emerging and developing economies for better representation in these financial institutions. So, to me, common sense, pragmatism speaks bloody loud that if you are to move the institution or the bloc, economic bloc that is forward, there will be a counterweight to the Western institutions that not only working with others on an equal footing, but taking advantage of. That's my point. I hope those people who are criticizing what I'm talking about, which by the way, I welcome their criticism. I respect their opinions. I might disagree, but they are entitled to express their opinions. So as long as it makes sense. I don't tolerate stupidity. You all know this, guys. So the other thing you have to think about it, when I say you, India in this case, you have to think in terms of how BRICS countries represent a significant percentage of the world population. Of course, India is number one population-wise, 1.4 billion. It's not a small market. You don't ignore that. But how can you have a good market if you don't have infrastructure for it? How can you have great consumers when they have nothing to spend? How can you have a great marketplace where the poverty is still very, very, very high? When an average citizen in India on a poor level lives on a $2.15 a day. What is that? So that's problematic. That's very, very problematic. But in the case of BRICS collectively, you think about this population, because it has a gross domestic product of about 16, get this guys, $16 trillion. So as a result, we can think about it technically. That is considered the third giant, economic giant, that is after the European Union and the United States. And of course, when we say BRICS as a whole, who are we referring to here? India? No, we're referring to China. It's because large economy. You can't ignore that. I always say, no matter how you slice it, You cannot ignore the sheer size of the Chinese economy. Simple as that. So this is why the West has been it has been various criticism about its rising. That is the reason why. And I was hoping that India will see through this, but apparently it is not the case. That is not the case, which is very, very, very concerning. So it becomes the question now. Okay, what should be done about all this? Because when you think pragmatically in anything you do in life, when you think pragmatically, and watch my words, I'm saying pragmatically, not emotionally, of course. When you think pragmatically, you're going to lay out the options you have in front of you, right? You deal with an issue, whatever that issue might be, and you lay out the options. Yeah, you could have 4, 5, 6 options. Okay, you narrow them to 2 because there are only 2 to choose from, and there's only 1 option to use. You can't use 2 options. That's the same argument for India. Putting 2 feet on both sides of the fence. Or like somebody put a comment, which was a great analogy. Thank you for that. I'm sorry, I forget the name. It's like a boat. You can't stand on 2 separate boats with 2 legs. Like you get them closer. At some point, you're going to fall. It's same argument. For India to think, what does he want? Do you want this direction or that direction? If you don't like where BRICS is headed, then get out. Simple as that. Which, for India not to lose face, instead of being expelled, they just say, hey, this is not for me anymore because it's not aligned with my interests and so forth. That is the reason why I put that thumbnail the way it was, guys. That's highlighted. Sometimes I send the messages just through my thumbnails, and I'm sure you're smart enough to read between the lines. Because that will be the logical, pragmatic question that members of BRICS, beside India, are asking right now. How can we embark on policies to move forward while one other member is sort of undermining that from behind the scenes, or not even behind the scenes, is openly? No. Now, let's be fair to India. And especially this one comes on the ACO, but I'm going to mention something here. As I said earlier, I'm going to keep the conversation for ACO on the ACO. And when my guest is here, Aina Tangen, who's going to be here on Wednesday, I intend to address this issue with him because he knows a great deal and is someone I trust. So the idea of, if India to be thinking in terms of, okay, like I said, we have to put ourselves in India's shoes. So India is saying to itself, well, my interests are not taken into consideration. Well, first of all, if I happen to be a member there, I would say to India, what are your interests? What are your concerns? Let's put them on the table. Let's discuss it. Okay? Then we'll see how we can all collaborate and work together. But this now, where the level he reached, it gives me personally no confidence to even open those kind of talks with India now, even though it is a member of the club. Why? Because the issue of trust. This is where I see the challenge. And again, India refusing to sign the SCO Development Strategy 2030. India deciding with the US to open up a naval hubs in India. And now refusing to acknowledge that or saying that the BRICS new currency is not even on the agenda. That tells me something right there. And again, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm following the facts. And again, India cannot be saying this and doing that. I read the article that was released. And again, I will disclose that to you later on in a video because it was very scathing for India. I don't think so that article will ever be published in India. And I'm going to provide you the link for it as well. Because Prime Minister Modi ended up not delivering on his promises. So what happened to the middle class in India? Because it's almost like there is no middle class. You're either there or at the bottom. It's not in the middle. And even if you are in the middle, you're struggling on a daily basis. So if India's argument is that, well, we're not going to support this new currency because we want our rupees. Okay, let's just play with the scenario. We move forward with the currency of rupees. How many countries do you think will be willing to use the rupees? If you can put the answer in the chat box, I will truly appreciate it. Because that's the logical argument. And this is why many countries now are not many countries, many observers, I should say, are now asking themselves, what must Russia and China be thinking right now? Does India not like the rapprochement between China and Russia? Possibly not. So if it doesn't like it, why is India reaching out to Russia for energy? So that's one. There are those who are saying, well, it's because if the rupees, that will undermine the currency for India if it is not promoted. Yeah, sure, you can promote the rupees if your economy is reflective of that. India's economy is not where it needs to be for it to have its currency reflected on the global stage. That's a fact. China is. The US is. The euro is. Even rubles for Russia won't be on the global stage. But Russia understands that. That's why they are doing it bilaterally. That's all. So, even what's his name? Lula da Silva of Brazil. He's advocating for the joint currency in Latin America between Brazil and Argentina. But he's not objecting to the BRICS currency. What he's saying is, yes, we could have that currency. That will be for global trade, okay? But for bilateral trade, we can choose to use our currency, which is a logical argument. I wish India was making the same arguments, because India will find out not many countries will want to trade in rupees. And for a simple reason, the economy, I'm not laughing maliciously here. It's just common sense. India's economy does not match where it wants to be financially. They're like this, or the other way, whatever way you put it. And this is where that argument is. And apparently, instead of focusing, the government in India, in New Delhi, instead of focusing on lifting the middle class up from poverty like China did, we couldn't even do it here in the US. You will think we will learn something from the Chinese, how they did it. So for India, instead of focusing on that, Prime Minister Modi is embarking on some policies that really questionable. That's the only reason why I'm bringing this up. Once again, just to put this on a record, I have nothing against India. Why will I? Just another country, a great civilization. And as I said, I know people from India. Wonderful. Some of my neighbors are from India. Wonderful people. But I won't shy away from stating the facts. It became clear to me, guys, by the way, right when India embarked on joining the Quad. It became clear to me. India is embarking on some policies that's going to backfire eventually. Unless Prime Minister is really craving Western attention. And the next question that comes with that is, did India ever shut itself out of the colonial mindset? And again, I'm talking the big picture. That is what I'm referring to here. So the idea of where this is going, it's problematic. So it behooves India to start to think about how they're gonna figure out for them to move forward. Really, because they're gonna need to do that. Otherwise, India will be the oddball in the group, and at some point, a decision will have to be made. That's like when you are at home and there is an issue at home with a family member or whatever. How long can you drag that on? Because at some point, you're going to have to say enough is enough. Here is what the decision is, and move on. So, and this is why the idea of why, in my opinion, the success of BRICS is going to counterbalance and create some sort of uh, uh, an even leveled playing field financially on a global finance. This is why we are concerned about, because we want to maintain the hegemony of the US dollar. So because we can sanction countries, which is not the right thing to do to begin with. So I think the sanctions we impose on Russia with this Ukraine saga that we created, and I'm sure you guys heard my conversation with Scott Ritter, so, which, by the way, I'll have him back on the show because we're going to talk about another very hot topic. The idea of we abused it beyond. So what we end up doing is we end up accelerating the de-dollarization process, literally. Even for the Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen, which, by the way, when she went to China, she was well received than the Secretary of State, which tells you, even for China, despite all this, they do respect Janet Yellen. Why? Because she thinks numbers. She's pragmatic and thinking. And for her to say the de-dollarization is going faster, for her to acknowledge that says a lot. That says a lot. It's because, again, we've abused it. So you will think India will think in terms of maybe we need to have a better understanding of where things are headed, and we can express our concerns. And of course, that's what they do in BRICS. It's just the manners by which India is going about it. I'm sure they understand the protocol. Something is not right. That's the only thing I can sense based on my observations. And as I said earlier, all this happened after Prime Minister Modi returned from the United States. So this is because here's the thing. When you think about BRICS collectively, there has been some sort of those who say, well, there is a decrease in trade that is happening between the members. Well, of course, because there is the arrangements of the currency. That's one. And second, that depends. In the case, we can give an example between Russia and India. Even Russia now saying, hey, we have so much rupees that we don't even know what to do with it, because that's their nicer way. That's Russia's nicer way of saying basically rupees is useless for us, but because it's a member of the BRICS and we are doing business with them, so we kind of, but at some point we're going to have to figure this out, even for them. But there are those other reports that saying that the trade between the members of the BRICS and the EU and the US is higher. The China trade with the rest of the world is even higher in terms of numbers in comparison. And this is the facts and reality that China is now willing to accept. It's almost, I feel like China, rather India, wants to subconsciously put itself on the same league as China's economy, which in reality, it's that subconscious level. That's what we call in English here wishful thinking. It's reality, it's a fact. That's the way I see it. So, as I said earlier, it behoves now for India to really think about what it wants. Does it want to be a member of the BRICS, or maybe go seek another? Because questions are emerging among some analysts, not here in Washington, of course. In Washington, they prefer that India stays. That could become the oddball that acting on behalf of. I don't know. It's just me thinking out loud. But there are analysts from overseas, and I've read some reports by some of them from, because there are think tanks overseas, of course, and all that. Uh, they are saying that, okay, what is India doing SEO, and what is India is doing in BRICS? Because it's becoming more evident that what is India contributing to BRICS economic bloc. Yes, it has a large sheer size market as far as consumers, but if consumers don't have purchasing power, in other words, they don't have enough money to buy, what's the point? That's almost like you have so much money, but your money it's worthless. What can you buy with it? It's like in the case of Venezuela. Yes, there's so much money, but it's worthless. So, and this is one of the reasons why it behooves now. It's because I believe the BRICS is entering a different phase of its existence. Now, this is with the shift of the geopolitical landscape, the multilateral or multipolarity that is upon us now. It's a fait accompli. I know in Washington, or the global, or the collective West rather, they're still living in denial. Oh, there is no shift into the global order. No, it is. It is. So, and India will have to really decide what it wants to do. So, all right, let me see, guys, if you have any question here, and I'm gonna wrap it up. And as I said earlier, I am gonna record a video for you about this topic, and I'm gonna record another video for the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And if you like me to do a live stream on the other topic, I'll be happy to do so. Also, just as a reminder, a final reminder here, remember to join me on Wednesday at 1900 hours. I will post it for you when I have my conversation with Einar Tengen. He will be here. So, all right, let me see if you got any question. I will be happy. And remember, guys, if especially for those who are here for the first time, if you are first time here, just please subscribe and smash that notification button so you'll be notified every time I upload a video or do a live stream. And thank you very much for your support. All right, let me see if there's any question here. I am so sorry I can't read this one. If can anybody translate this one, I would really appreciate it. Thank you, James. Yeah, I look forward to the conversation with Einar Tengen because he possesses such depth about those global issues, and being a lawyer, understand how he can articulate these issues. And I intend to address this issue of India with him, given the economic ties with the BRICS and so forth. So, once again, Osiris, I want to say thank you for your super sticker. Truly appreciate it. I'm just scrolling down, guys, to see. Oh, Alan, thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate it. All right. Oh, here's KL. KL, thank you again for your super sticker. Truly appreciate it. Thank you all, guys. I truly appreciate it. And remember, once we reach 100 members, I'm going to do an exclusive Q&As for the members. So we are right now at about 48, if I'm not mistaken. And as I said last time, I'll give you a challenge if we can reach that number by the end of this month. So we are on the, what's today's date? Is the 17th. So we have 13 days. If we can reach that magic number of 100, we'll we'll go ahead and do Q&A for the members only. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you find this very informative. Be on the lookout for some videos I'm going to be releasing this week. It will be some good informations that I will be sharing with you. There is one coming up soon about in China, in Africa, an interesting one. Be on the lookout for that. I will release it for you guys tomorrow morning. And I'm always open to your suggestions. Hope you find this very informative, and I look forward to seeing you next time. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.